Jim from maverickstar Observatory. So hopefully a couple of weeks ago you will have took some of the advice that we put out there for you, and gone and got yourselves some food supplies whilst the shops were still fully stocked. If you've left it till at this point in time, as you may already know, here in the UK, and what it seems to be the general pattern around the world, is that the shelves in the supermarkets are slowly emptying, and what we're seeing is a strange behaviour of people buying toilet paper. I can understand why the hand sanitizer is going very quickly, because obviously you need to keep washing your hands every time you go out or come back in, or if you're at work, and you touch things, you need to sterilise your hands first of all, and that will stop you putting it in your mouths and then contaminating yourselves basically. So before we go on, a big thanks to the few people that have supported us over the last few days, and we are noticing the numbers drop off as a result of coronavirus. Can you believe it even affects the maverickstar Observatory? What we are going to do to make sure the continuity of data still flows is wait till a certain point of drop in the revenue that we raise to keep things going here, and when it hits that level, we are going to implement another measure of doing business here on not just this platform, but we're going to use another platform, probably Vimeo, and also Patreon. So we're not there yet. Hopefully people will realise the importance of what we do here. At the end of the day, we did give people a heads up 2 weeks in advance that there was going to be a run on the food in the shops, and we're seeing that now. And all I will say as regards to this is, if you haven't done any preparations, then you need to get out there right now and do it. And I'll tell you why. Because there isn't enough food, sadly, to feed us all, and it is going to be a case of first come, first serve. I kid you not. As you know, one of the reasons there's not going to be enough to go round is because, first of all, people are panic buying, and you can't blame them, because at the end of the day they're trying to ensure the continuity of their family and loved ones. And secondly, the global shipping is slowly deteriorating. Things are not arriving in ports, and the more countries that shut the doors to quarantine will mean that people won't be working in those countries, and the produce won't simply be leaving them countries in order for it to arrive in yours. So whatever you produce in your own country is only going to be what you've got. And you guys know also that we are having a lot of problems as a result of the magnetic pole reversal and a grand solar minimum. And that in turn is altering our jet streams and climates and seasons that we use to grow our foods in. And that is why, when we look over in Canada, some of the farmers are desperately trying to get what they can still out the ground, what should have been got out the ground in October. Not the majority of the cases, we're just talking of a few cases, but what we are seeing generally, globally, is a reduction in the arable crop productive lands that feed the 7 billion strong. If we look at countries that have an advanced level of the outbreak at the moment, you can sort of get an idea as to what to expect. As your country that you live in starts to reach those numbers, and like I say, we're going to see at some point. My next prediction is public unrest, and I don't even know if the governments have even thought that far ahead, but it might not be that far ahead when we start to see this happen. And we're going to start to see this happen as soon as the food has been cleared from the shelves and there is no more. And around about a week or two after that, we are going to start to see serious social unrest within these countries. When you are starving, when you have got children to feed, you will do drastic measures in order to put food on the table. We can look at a lot of scenarios. There's plenty of cases in history where people have resorted to, these measures, so just bear that in mind. Guys, like I said, this is a real spanner been thrown into the works. And there are so many implications that we're going to face as a result of it. And, I'm listening to other people, and they're talking about, at some point we could be going to war with China as a result of this, because, China, some people in China have accused America of, dropping this disease on them. And as a result, they are threatening to withhold, drugs that go, to America, and there are people talking about this being an act of war. So you can see how this can escalate into far worse scenarios. I think if that was the case, and it did get to that level, then it would become completely unimaginable, wouldn't it? To have to deal with a crisis where, the elderly people in our country, the ones with weak immune systems, are already at threat directly in our country, as well as then, posing a threat to all the other age groups and human beings, globally, as a result of a next third world war. We don't need that. People need to talk, and, we need to work together on a solution. But meantime, and there isn't a lot of time left, guys. I've heard numbers. Another thing that I've heard is the numbers that they're saying that are going to get it, say in the UK, are much lower than what the actual fact will be. I've predicted 93%, and I've also, have a good idea that around June, mid-June to the end of June, there could have been already 50 million cases of coronary disease in this country, the UK, as a result of the infection getting out of control. And at that point, as you can imagine, it's a big number, isn't it? There's only about 65 to 70 million people here in the UK, and we're talking pretty much 95% of those that are in the UK at some point getting corona or COVID-19, or will have had it by then. The government, sadly, in my view, have not acted fast enough. And, the other day, they said they wasn't going to close down things. And then, when they saw the response of the general public, in that, we thought they was going to do something positive, and show to be doing something, to try and, contain the outbreak. They obviously had that feedback from the public very shortly, and the next day they changed and said that they are going to start reducing events where a large number of people congregate. So, it doesn't give me much confidence in the government handling this system, and I think that they could have done a lot more, a lot earlier, that would have, ensured the outbreak didn't get to this level at this point in time. We've lost 21 people now in this country, and that number is going to, as you can imagine, increase as the weeks go on, rapidly. I mean, we're looking at the charts now, and they're no longer a nice diagonal chart. These are starting to go vertical as time goes on. So the cases and the acceleration of the virus is now really starting to take effect. And it's at this point where people will start to panic as a result of that. When they, as I said, when they hear of someone in their street having it, it will bring it home. When they hear that one of their family members have got it, it will bring it home even more clearer. And, again, for friends, relatives, etc. We have a lot of vulnerable people in this country that are not going to make it. Another 60-year-old today, or actually there was a few of them have died today, and these are people that are dying of something that, if it was avoided, wouldn't have naturally died at this moment in time, or should we say at least prematurely. Some of the things that I'm doing, I've still got parents, they're both in the 70s. I've told them that I'm not going to be going down for the foreseeable future. If we need to talk, we can do so on Skype, FaceTime. There's lots of methods of communication. This day and age, you can still video chat people for free, and that's probably the chosen method that I'm going to be using to communicate with my parents, as opposed to, even though I haven't got it yet, or as far as I know I haven't got it yet, I am expecting to get it at some point. I'm not going to quarantine myself now, and I am expecting to get it. I'm expecting my wife to get it. We'll just have to look after each other during that period of time when we do get it, and quarantine ourselves, and meanwhile, keep our hands washed and clean, and try and prevent traffic at that point in time. Being in, obviously if we're quarantined, then we're not going to be going out, but we've pretty much got what we need anyhow. We don't need to go out for a good 3-4 months. So just face the fact, guys. The majority of us here in the UK and the rest of the world are going to get this, and what we need to do is focus on protecting the most vulnerable. The thing is that the government got this idea of allowing it to spread naturally throughout. They're using the terminology herd something or other, but basically you get as many people to have it all in one period of time, and there will naturally be an anti body built up, or immune system built up to the disease. I want to make it clear, because someone thought, I was talking about you being able to, in a video the other day, being able to get COVID-19 more than once. No, what I was talking about is genomes that have separated, or in layman's terms, mutated from that. There is another one going around, I believe in China. It's called RATG13. It stems from something between the SARS virus and coronavirus, and that could soon be making its rounds as well. So that there could be at least 2 viruses out there that pose equally the same, as far as I'm aware, dangers to the vulnerable people with weak immune systems or respiratory problems. So just bear that in mind, and also bear in mind that we could see other mutations. If that's the case, this ain't going away overnight. Like the British government seem to think that once we get the peak, it burns itself out. I really don't want to see the peak in a short space of time, because if that is the case, it won't just be people that are dying in the hospitals through there not being adequate medical staff for the already overpushed NHS system that we've got here. It will be people that are also dying through not having simple treatments, with regards to the fact of sheer numbers turning up. And I know people are thinking, well, we're only at 1,000 at the moment, that'll double probably tomorrow, or maybe even triple. It should triple, but let's see if it does at least double tomorrow, and so will, as we know, the death rates start to go up as the numbers of confirmed infected get it. I will say this, and the British government did mention this. They said that there could be, at this moment, 5,000 to 10,000 people walking around with COVID-19. And if that is the case, then there is a low death rate attached to this, simply because at the moment, with the 1,443 confirmed cases, I think the death rate is just under 2%. But if there is 5,000 to 10,000 people walking around with COVID disease at the moment, then the death rate is obviously a lot lower than 1%, which is a good thing. But still a bad thing for the fact that this is, killing people, and has killed already over 5,500 people globally, and done so in a matter of a very short space of time. And the thing is, the death rate is going to increase over a shorter time period, simply because when one person infects 3, and then one of those 3 people infect another 3, you can see how many times this multiplies and how fast this spreads. And when you start getting into the numbers of thousands, you start getting into the numbers of tens of thousands very quickly as a result of that multiplication. What I've already heard is people saying, stuff it, I'm not going to self-isolate, and I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to be paid for having time off work, and it's a cold at the end of the day. and I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got to put food on my table for my family. Well, all that attitude's going to do is spread the virus faster and kill more people unnecessarily as a result of the inevitable happening at some point. This virus getting spread to a person that's vulnerable. And if you remember, the governments have not said to people to isolate themselves at the moment if they are vulnerable. They're waiting for a period of time when the numbers are at higher levels. I would suggest that if you are vulnerable, that you do self-isolate now, and you reduce the traffic to your home as soon as you can. Do that physically. Just let people know your situation, that you are vulnerable, that you are concerned that you might get it, and you would like to reduce the risks in the coming weeks by self-isolating, and just say that you would like them to appreciate the fact that what you're doing is trying to save your life. Hopefully, there will be some elderly people out there watching this right now that might take that advice. I really hope you do, because you stand a lot greater chance than if you wait for the British government to make an announcement on the TV telling you when to do that. If I was you, get your family network around you to support you on this. Think about how contamination can come into your environment. Like I said the other day, if you've got letters that are being posted through your door, obviously there is a chance that the postman or post lady or post person, to be politically correct these days, may have the coronavirus. May have been coughing on their hands and handling your letters, and next minute they go into your door letterbox and you pick them up with your bare hands. So you might want to be, having some spray or disinfectant on something that you can wipe the envelope over. Remember, the person that obviously has sent the letter to you may not be a robot that packed that letter. It could be something that's been hand signed, and therefore, you've got to take precautions again. Maybe a pair of gloves might be the best thing for you there, and just, a mask of some sorts. Just because it is airborne, and it can be passed, that easy onto you. And remember, you've got to get serious about this. So I'll leave you with what you need to do with that respect. There is one other thing I want to say. You may have got your food preparations now, and hopefully that was because I advised you a couple of weeks ago, or you may be a prepper and you might have already been prepped for this occasion. I mean, there's a lot of us with a lot of equipment that you're simply not going to be able to buy at this point in time because it's just out of stock, or is no longer able to be imported into your country. But what I do want you to think about is some method of protecting your family as best you can from people that might be knocking on your door and looting in numbers and so on and so forth. You may have food now stocked up for yourselves, but when people have a net for a week, and that is going to come in all our countries, the government haven't got enough food, they haven't got a magic wand or warehouse full of food to give you. This is something that we are going to see perhaps in the next 3 to 4 weeks' time. We've just got to really watch what happens and see how the stocks diminish. We know they're not getting into the ports, or if they are, they're coming in very short numbers. So, think about how you're going to protect your food, your loved ones, from other people. Now, I will give you a story. My wife, you may or may not know, is Lithuanian, and we've been keeping an eye on the numbers over in Lithuania. It's a small country, very small population of about 3.5 million at the most. They've got very low numbers of coronavirus in the country. I mean, the other day, 3 days ago, I think it was 1, and then it went up to 3, and now I think it's at 8. So, they're starting to do testing and find out there's probably a bigger problem than what they first thought. But my point is this, is that people in Lithuania already, from the grapevine that we've heard, have been going around in medical suits, posing as medical staff. They're taking temperatures of people, but at the same time, they're robbing them. So be aware of this behaviour becoming more popular. Lithuanian government have had to make an announcement, as far as I'm aware, to say that they are not sending anybody out with thermometers or any medical staff just cold calling and knocking on doors. But you can imagine there will be vulnerable or elderly people that will be caught out by this because of the hype attached to the outbreak or the pandemic that is at hand right now. So just bear that in mind. Okay, guys. I don't want to have to, first of all, I just want to round off on this. I don't want to have to resort to other measurements, in order to get data to people and keep this observatory open. This is a time where we'll stick together, hopefully. And, guys, I just hope that the support continues and doesn't continue to reduce as it is. I do understand, that we have got bills to pay and, we're trying to put more money up for things for ourselves at the moment, but equally, without the money, we will grind to a complete halt. And I have, as invested even more recently now, since I don't know, probably the last 4 years, a hell of a lot of time. I've built a lot of equipment and spent a lot of time programming and teaching myself how to program this equipment. And we're at a stage now where we're just about to get the muon detectors out into Brazil and South Central Australia. It would be an absolute shame if all that effort was wiped out just because of what is taking place with regards to the coronavirus. And so I'll just mention it once. There's a link down there if you want to help support us. We do need supporting, guys. And we need you to stand by us as well as me, delivering the information when I get it to you. Hopefully you will appreciate that there's been a couple of times now at the observatory where we've came out before NASA, and we have came out before even world governments and told you up front what you need to do, like recently 2 weeks ago. So it is good sometimes to be right, isn't it? Okay, I'll leave you to have a good evening, enjoy it with your loved ones, and give some thought to what I've talked about and mentioned here in this video, and I'll catch up with you at some point over the weekend maybe. So as always, bye for now.